She was 23, beautiful, athletic, full of life. Amy Lynn Bradley had just graduated from college and was ready to take on the world. Her family decided to celebrate with a dream vacation, a cruise through the Caribbean. Laughter, music, ocean views. It was supposed to be unforgettable for all the right reasons. But on March 24, 1998, Amy disappeared from a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, without a single trace. No splash. No scream. No camera footage, nothing. 1 minute she was dancing at a ship nightclub with friends. The next, gone. And here's where it gets even stranger. Her shoes were still in her cabin. Her cigarettes, her ID, her clothes, all untouched. Her family was sleeping just feet away. They woke up expecting her to join them for breakfast. But Amy never showed. They searched the ship frantically. Passengers claimed they'd seen her early that morning on the deck alone. But somehow, in broad daylight, in a crowded space, with over 2,000 passengers on board, Amy vanished, and the ship kept moving. What followed were years of silence, frustration, dead ends, until a photograph was emailed to her family. A grainy image of a terrified woman, tied up, barely clothed, on what appeared to be a sex trafficking website. That woman looked exactly like Amy. Suddenly, everything changed. This wasn't just a disappearance. It wasn't just a case of someone falling overboard. This was darker, much darker. What if Amy didn't leave the ship on her own? What if she was taken, drugged, hidden, smuggled off at the next port? And what if she's still alive? Over 2 decades later, her family hasn't stopped searching. They haven't stopped hoping. And neither should we. Because someone knows what happened that night. And it's time to find out who. This is the chilling case of Amy Lynn Bradley. And once you hear the full story, you'll understand why it still haunts everyone who's heard it. Imagine waking up on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean, excited for another day of sun and adventure, only to realize your daughter is gone. This was the nightmare that unfolded for the Bradley family in March of 1998. Amy Lynn Bradley wasn't just any tourist. She was vibrant, athletic, driven, and had just graduated from Longwood University in Virginia with a degree in physical education. She had plans, big ones, and this family cruise on the Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas was meant to be a well-earned break before she started her new job. It started like any normal family vacation. On March 21st, Amy, her parents Ron and Eva, and her younger brother, Brad, boarded the Rhapsody in San Juan, Puerto Rico, heading toward Aruba and Curacao. Spirits were high. The ship was beautiful. There were pools, restaurants, nightclubs, everything you'd expect from a Caribbean cruise. Over the first 2 days, Amy explored the ship, snapped photos, and hung out with her family. She even emailed a friend, saying how excited she was for the next chapter of her life. But something else happened on board that no one knew would matter later. Amy drew the attention of the ship's band, specifically a member known as Yellow. They were friendly. Too friendly, perhaps. Fast forward to the night of March 23. The ship had just left Aruba. That night, Amy and Brad decided to hit the disco lounge, where a ship's band called Blue Orchid was performing. There were drinks, music, dancing, and passengers enjoying the carefree cruise life. At some point between 1 and a.m., Amy was seen dancing with Yellow, the same band member. There's actual footage of them together that night, dancing. Nothing seemed wrong at the time. Around 3:30 a.m., Brad says they both returned to their family cabin. Amy sat out on the cabin balcony for a while to get some air while her brother went to sleep. Their father, Ron, briefly woke up around 5:30 a.m. and saw Amy still on the balcony. That would be the last confirmed time anyone saw Amy Lynn Bradley. When Ron woke up again around a.m., Amy was gone. Her shoes were still in the cabin, and that's important. Amy was known to always wear shoes. She had sensitive feet and would never walk barefoot, especially not on deck or off the ship. Her cigarettes and lighter were also in the room, but Amy had vanished. Panic set in quickly. The Bradleys alerted cruise staff and begged them to make an emergency announcement before passengers began to disembark in Curacao. But the ship's crew refused, saying it was too early and that it might disturb other guests. The ship docked, and hundreds of passengers walked off freely. If someone had taken Amy, that window had now closed. Finally, hours later, the crew made a delayed announcement, but by then, it was too late. The search began on board cabins, hallways, common areas, but nothing turned up. No cameras had caught her leaving. No witnesses came forward. Amy had seemingly evaporated from a ship surrounded by water and full of people. Even stranger, multiple passengers claimed to have seen Amy that morning after the time her father last saw her. One Canadian man said he saw a woman matching Amy's description walking toward an elevator with two men. She looked uncomfortable, even scared, but nobody stopped them. Another claimed he saw her looking out over the railing alone. But again, if that was Amy, where did she go next? The cruise line's explanations didn't add up. They suggested Amy may have fallen overboard. But the ship was surrounded by calm seas, and Amy was a trained lifeguard, a strong swimmer. Plus, if she had fallen, someone would have heard something. More importantly, why would she be out on deck barefoot, alone, at dawn, without even her cigarettes or shoes? Nothing made sense. Even worse, the ship's crew became oddly uncooperative. The band member Yellow, the last known person Amy was seen dancing with, refused to answer more questions. He later gave inconsistent statements and avoided investigators. Other crew members said strange things to the family. One even told Amy's parents she was probably with the crew and not to worry. Let that sink in. Amy had only been missing for hours, and someone was already suggesting she might be with the crew? Was that a slip-up, a hint, or a warning? Authorities were finally called in. The FBI joined the investigation. Dogs were brought onto the ship, and they picked up Amy's scent leading to a deck near the side of the ship. And then it just ended. Had someone dragged her across the deck? Was she put in a lifeboat or smuggled off? All of this happening while her family was still on board, desperate and helpless. Then came the rumors. People whispered about a human trafficking ring operating on cruise ships through Caribbean ports, kidnapping women, drugging them, and selling them into forced sex work. It seemed unthinkable. But for the Bradleys, that theory suddenly wasn't just a rumor. They'd find out later that cruise ships have no legal requirement to report missing persons immediately, especially in international waters. And because the ship was registered in Liberia, not the U.S., jurisdictional red tape tied investigators' hands. Amy's parents began their own search. They stayed in Curacao for days. They put up flyers. They spoke to locals. One taxi driver told them he remembered seeing Amy and that she was looking scared, asking for help. But again, just like everything else, it led nowhere. A young woman, dancing one night, smiling with her brother, was suddenly gone. No trace, no scream, no blood, no body. Just a growing list of disturbing clues, strange sightings, and cold silence. And the feeling that someone on that ship knew what happened and got away with it. The moment Amy Lynn Bradley disappeared, the clock started ticking. And every second that passed without action became a missed opportunity. One that might be made the difference between finding her or losing her forever. The first red flag, Becrui's staff's delayed response. Amy's family reported her missing around 6:30 a.m. hours before the ship docked in Curacao. They pleaded with the crew, make an announcement, lock down the exits, don't let anyone off the ship. But they were told it was too early to alarm passengers. Too early? By the time any announcement was made, passengers had already flooded off the ship, including staff, entertainers, and strangers who had been partying with Amy just hours before. If someone had taken her, that was the perfect chance to disappear clean, fast, and unnoticed. Strike one. Then came the second red flag, security footage, or the lack of it. Despite being a luxury cruise liner with over 2,000 guests, The ship couldn't produce any usable surveillance of Amy after 5:30 a.m. No exit, no fall, no deck movements. It's like she vanished into thin air. But how does a person just disappear on a floating hotel? Either the cameras weren't working, or someone knew where the blind spots were. Strike 2. Now, let's talk about the band member Amy was last seen dancing with, known only by the nickname Yellow. At first, he cooperated. He told authorities Amy had said goodnight and gone her separate way. But as the investigation deepened, his behavior changed. He became evasive, then lawyered up, then went completely silent. Crew members also started acting strangely. One waiter, days after Amy vanished, approached her family and told them not to give up, that Amy had been spotted with crew members in Kira. Why would a stranger say something like that? Unless he knew something. Strike 3. And then there was this chilling discovery. Multiple passengers recalled seeing Amy walking toward an elevator early that morning with two men in cruise staff uniforms. She looked nervous. One even said she glanced back over her shoulder, like she wanted help. Why didn't anyone step in? Strike 4. And finally, the biggest failure of all. No one stopped the ship. Despite a missing person, despite multiple eyewitness accounts, the cruise line never halted operations, never secured the scene, and didn't even offer Amy's family full access to crew records. It wasn't until the FBI got involved that the cruise company released even basic information. By then, it was too late. The trail was cold. Amy's disappearance wasn't just a tragedy. It was a case drowned in incompetence, silence, and missed chances. If someone had acted sooner, if someone had paid closer attention, maybe Amy Lynn Bradley wouldn't just be a mystery. She might have been found. For most missing persons cases, time is the enemy. The longer someone is gone, the colder the trail becomes. But in Amy Lynn Bradley's case, time brought something different. Sightings. Dozens of them across multiple countries, and each one was more disturbing than the last. The first major sighting came just months after Amy disappeared. Two Canadian tourists in Kira were visiting a local beach when they saw a young woman being aggressively escorted by a group of men. She looked terrified. The tourist would later describe her as having green eyes, short brown hair, and tattoos identical to Amy's. When she made eye contact, she appeared to want help, but before they could react, the men shoved her into a car and drove off. The couple didn't realize the significance of what they'd seen until they returned home and saw Amy's face on a missing poster. Years passed. Then came another sighting, this time from a U.S. Navy sailor. In 1999, he claimed that while visiting a brothel in Kira, a woman approached him and whispered frantically, "My name is Amy Lynn Bradley, please help me." Before he could act, she was pulled away by several men. When he later reported it, authorities didn't take it seriously. But Amy's family did. More sightings followed at shopping malls, on streets, and sketchy clubs across the Caribbean. One witness reported seeing her at a mall, pacing nervously, constantly looking over her shoulder. Another said she saw a woman fitting Amy's exact description being paraded in a red light district, guarded closely by men who never let her out of sight. Then, in 2005, 7 years after she vanished, a shocking photo surfaced. A woman, bound and posed on a sex trafficking website under the name Jazz. She was wearing heavy makeup. Her expression was lifeless. But when Amy's parents saw the image, they froze. The jawline, the eyes, the tattoos. It was her. They submitted the image to the FBI. Forensics ran comparisons, and while the results were inconclusive, several experts agreed the resemblance was chilling. At that moment, the theory that Amy had been kidnapped into a human trafficking ring wasn't just speculation anymore. It was terrifyingly possible. Why would all these people, from sailors to tourists, claim to see the same woman? Why did the crew staff act so defensively? And why has no one been able to bring her home? The idea that Amy fell overboard had always been weak. But now, it seemed laughable. This wasn't a disappearance. This wasn't an accident. This was organized, coordinated. And if the sightings were true, Amy Lynn Bradley didn't die. She was taken, and she may still be out there waiting to be rescued. In 2005, 7 years after Amy Lynn Bradley vanished, a photo surfaced that sent shockwaves through her family and reignited the case. The image appeared on an adult website tied to human trafficking. It showed a woman, barely clothed, lying on a bed in a suggestive pose. Her eyes were empty, her body tense, and her face looked exactly like Amy's. Same strong jawline, same eyebrows, same piercing green eyes. Even the same unique tattoo. Amy had a Tasmanian devil spinning a basketball on her shoulder and a gecko on her stomach. Both appeared to be visible in the photo. Her parents were horrified. They immediately turned it over to the FBI. Specialists analyzed it, and while no one could confirm it was Amy, no one could say it wasn't. For the first time, Amy's disappearance felt less like a mystery and more like a hostage situation. If that photo was real, and if that woman was Amy, then she was alive. But trapped, used, and desperately waiting for someone to find her. What should have been closure became a curse. Because now, her family wasn't just grieving, they were fighting to save her from the shadows. Years have passed, but the questions never stopped. Why did the cruise line wait hours before alerting passengers? Why wasn't the ship locked down immediately? Why did they let people disembark knowing a young woman was missing? Why were witnesses ignored? And why did some crew members act like they knew more than they said? And the biggest question of all, was Amy Lynn Bradley sold into sex trafficking while her family slept just feet away? Her case remains one of the most haunting disappearances in modern history. No remains, no confession, just unexplained sightings, a chilling photograph, and the unbearable silence of people who might know the truth. Amy's parents, Ron and Eva, never gave up. They spent years chasing leads, hiring private investigators, appearing on national TV begging for answers. Every time the phone rang, they wondered, is this the call that brings her home? But no call ever came. Instead, all they have are questions. Endless, echoing questions. And a pain only made worse by the thought that Amy might still be alive somewhere out there, waiting for someone to notice. Amy Lynn Bradley didn't vanish into thin air. Someone knows what happened on that ship, and someone may still be holding her captive. This case isn't just about a missing woman. It's about justice delayed, voices ignored, and a family that refuses to give up. If you know something, say something. Even the smallest detail could be the breakthrough her family has prayed for since 1998. Share her story, keep her name alive. Because the moment we stop talking about Amy is the moment she disappears for good. And she deserves more than silence. She deserves to be found. Thank you for following this series. Share your theory in the comments. Subscribe, share, and like for future case deep dives. This story might be closed, but the questions are still wide open.